Fantastic. Next up, we have Charley Hine. Charley is actually a lead singer of a rock and roll band. Yeah, has played Red Rock, which I think is a dream.
You look like a lead singer.
Ready? Charley, you ready? I also have a girlfriend, so. My name is Charley Hine. I'm going to talk about the similarities I found between songwriting and programming. I started programming when I was 13, songwriting and kind of tinkering around with instruments when I was 11. I thought it might be kind of interesting because a lot of techies seem like they want to be musicians, and a lot of musicians, I think a lot of musicians think that they want to be as smart as techies. So Second Life, rock band, that's actually just a picture of Devin Marine. Okay, so a 101 on object-oriented technology, we've got these objects. They're kind of different sections that make up the application, and they're different. You've got polymorphism, you've got inheritance. A 101 on inheritance, just real quick to prove a point. You could have the base property of a shoe, has a sole, has laces. Another object could inherit off that. Take green fuzz, a cushy sole. It's stuff white people like, kind of. So I've noticed the same in music. I've noticed that there's these verses, there's these choruses, and you can kind of take one verse and put it over here, and it's a bridge if you just change the vocal line and change the groove a little bit. I think Nirvana did this a lot. You'll see verse, chorus, and then they'll have this bridge where the guitar is actually the vocal line. So to me, it's the same type of brain power as inheritance in object-oriented programming. Back to the shoes. Slide. Another similarity is kind of removing yourself from the equation. I think oftentimes, especially designers, have to kind of say, is what I'm doing a little bit too stock? Does it sound a little bit too much like Bob Dylan? Does it look too much like Flickr? Are the colors the same? On a less negative note, you also kind of have to say, hey, this one thing I'm doing is this one. Where's the real value add to the user here? So kind of putting yourself in the user's seat. Oftentimes, Bob Dylan would play shows and then change his verses while he was on the road. And he was one of the greatest lyricists ever. So it doesn't just come from the beginning. You kind of have to crowd test or user acceptance test. It's another great similarity I've seen is that I'll hit these walls with programming, especially. You kind of have to step away. You get this analysis paralysis if you overthink it. Same in songs. You'll hit this track, you have to go back up to the solution. Okay, and you've heard stories of coders kind of coming up with code in their sleep to get to the solution. I think musicians do the same thing. Sometimes they take a walk in the city or go out in nature or take drugs. Also, I think old shit that you've never used is sometimes really good in coding and songwriting. Sometimes you'll have these code samples. Sometimes you'll have a chorus. And one day you'll use it. A lot of the time you just have this repository. So say, for example, you have a piece of code that allows people to pay for things with their cell phone by text messaging in, meaning that they don't have to use quarters at a payphone. If you implement that code, it would be, that was a joke. So I have this repository of shit. I'll use it one day. It's really good. I think coders do that too. They do samples from blogs, etc. So I think at this point you might be saying, no duh. Programming and songwriting are both really kind of math-oriented. I hear that a lot when I was talking to people about this. But I wanted to say that the most successful programming and songwriting I've done actually takes both brains. Got to be creative. Got to have an end goal. Got to watch out for the analysis paralysis. If there's not a creative vision and there's no goal that you're going towards, oftentimes there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And I kind of noticed that, I think, with Startup Weekend 1, which a lot of you guys were at, we kind of had a lot of cooks. It was still a fun time, but we learned in Startup Weekend 2. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I've seen a lot of similarities. My message to techies would be pick up an instrument. They're really cheap these days. Go for it. That's That's actually the Male Flex banjo. No. But, yeah. So my message to musicians is make sure you've got that creative goal. If you're kind of just farting around, programming is a great fallback. It is great. Take it from me. And if you're just ripping it up in your room like Dream Theater, who gives a shit?